Hello. Can we settle down, please? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming for this press briefing. It's a joint press briefing between the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development and the Ministry of Transport. Perhaps we'll do a quick introduction so I will know which houses are represented. Ministry people don't need to bother. Sir, let's start with you. You don't need to start. You just quickly just tell us.
My name is Andy Egu,
Yes.
the news editor of the Nigerian Observer.
Okay, you're welcome, Mr. Ego. Yes, yes, sir.
Gabriel Novelase.
Excellent.
Yes, Tanzania Punch.
Punch, okay.
Otavos Agile Nation.
Nation, okay. What media house?
Justin and second.
Yes, what media house?
Okay,
Observer.
Observer, okay.
Dixon Wari, News for the People magazine.
News?
From the People magazine.
Which many more there? There was still websites.
Okay, no wonder it is. Alright.
Are you with this?
Yes. No, I don't know. I see. Thank you. Yes, sir. So very quickly, I'm very delighted to welcome my colleague, the Federal Commissioner, who is the Commissioner for Transport and joint convener of this issue. In line with this mission, the ministry is making some radical changes to the way our urban environment is being run. I'm sure you all have noticed the very, very chaotic traffic situation in some sections of the city. You've also noticed the very chaotic developments going on up and down, the way people just build, turn their premises to any use that they feel like. Today your house is in a residential area, tomorrow somebody opens a beer parlor next to you. Henceforth, operators of bus terminals, whether public or private, are expected first of all to register their bus terminals with the Ministry of Transport. And then they are to get planning approval from the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development with regards to the location of certain of their bus terminals. It therefore means that you cannot just decide to open a bus terminal wherever you like. When I mean bus terminal, for clarity, I'm talking of maybe a Degbe line or God is Good or Amiosa. Those are private terminals. It is no longer possible to do that. In fact, at the expiration of the deadline which we gave, which we end at the end of today, by tomorrow we intend to go out and begin to verify those who have gotten proper permits. Those who don't have proper permits, we will close them down until they do the needful to get the permits they need. Secondly, on the conversion of residential premises, it is expected that everybody carries out their legitimate businesses within the boundaries of their properties. What this means, therefore, is that the era of putting whatever they call it, whether kiosk or caravan or extension, in front of their premises is outlawed. Well, it has always been outlawed, but right now we are going to start enforcing this. We want to advise those who have these caravans, kiosks, or extension to their fences as shops to remove them peacefully on their own. Because starting from next week, a task force on building development control will be going around to remove these obstructions to our environment. And when this is done, the cost of these removals will be gotten from the owners. And in the event that they refuse to comply, they also stand the risk of being prosecuted in the court of law. For those who are in doubt as to our powers to do this, I would welcome them to read the urban and regional planning law so that they are pleased themselves of the various sections of the laws they are taking and the various the various sanctions that is visible, including demolition. Let me make it clear that the ministry has powers to demolish any illegal structure, and henceforth we intend to take these powers very seriously and utilize them to the benefit of the general populace. This also goes for all those who have converted their residential premises to either churches or restaurants, schools, supermarkets, nightclubs, car wash, and so on and so forth. Let it be known that the use for which the CFO is granted is stated on the CFO, and that in the event that you want to change any of these, it is required that you come to the Ministry of Urban Planning, Urban Development and Housing to get the necessary permits. Not getting those permits before doing this conversion is a breach of relevant town planning laws and will be taken seriously henceforth. Again, we'll be going around to check all these properties to ensure that people comply. In fact, let me advise anybody that wants to do any building development, please start with the necessary permit to avoid embarrassment. To this effect, to make it easy, the ministry has actually centralized the planning process. There is now a central, we now have a central committee that will handle our planning and development permits and popularly called building approvals. Yeah. Such that we are hoping now that those who apply for these plans, depending on the complexity of your plans, between 30 days and 90 days will be sufficient for you to get your approvals out. And there will be no need, in fact, it will be illegal for you to patronize touts. You can just come straight, the office of the commissioner is open. We have a box that we have created for those who have complaints, for them to put in their complaints. You come straight with your necessary documents. You will be given a list of requirements. Once you fulfill them, between 30 and 90 days, your planning approval will come out. It has been made much easier. There will be no need now for you to go through anybody, whether by whatever name, whether AP or APO's agent or architect agent. All those are not necessary. Come straight to the ministry will deal with you directly. There's an office in charge of that. So in light of this, anybody who have submitted their plans from anything above 3 months ago and have no response, please come straight to the office of the commissioner. We promise to resolve your issue within 30 days. I want to passionately appeal to all concerned to take advantage of our noble gesture and regularize their permits, particularly the operators of bus terminals. We do not want a situation where people will say they have not been warned. Adverts have been running for weeks now to intimate our people that there is need for them to regularize with the Ministry of Transport and Ministry of Housing. We will be going out starting tomorrow, and we hope that all those concerned have the necessary permits ready for our inspection. I'll yield the floor now for my colleague Commissioner for Transport. I'm sure he has 1 or 2 things to add after we can bring this to a close, barring any questions you need to ask.
Thank you, Honorable Commissioner for Urban Planning. And gentlemen, we don't have gentlemen in the media. We are all men, gentlemen of the press, directors, permanent secretaries here present. Let me quickly add to say the Honorable Commissioner for Urban Planning has said it all, but let me re-echo paragraph 4 of the press release if you have it here. Registration of public and private bus terminal. The State Executive Council decided to bring the term bus terminal because we found out that most of the local government, they have abused the word parks to mean that they have the statutory role to convert any building to parks. And so for us to be able to exercise our authority as a state through the Ministry of Urban Planning, so that we can have a city that is driven by high tech in terms of the wideness of the road, the kind of vehicles we have on it. We thought it was proper for us to define where the boundaries of each arm of government starts and ends. So we use the word terminal to mean every private park or every private place or space that an individual decided to put up for the purpose of converging vehicles there that will ply our road for commercial use. So that is what we mean by bus terminals. And what we have found out, like what the Honorable Commissioner said, most of our brothers, our sisters, our moms, they are converting the inner lane of our motorways to their motor parks. And we've gone around, and their explanation and excuse is that one, we have paid to one local government or the other, and they are quick to brandish one permit or the other. And our argument is this: the state government cannot spend billions of naira to expand our roads only for our brothers, our sisters, our fathers and moms to come back and convert such extra lane to where they would put their vehicles to load Warri 1, Siloko 1 and whatever. We will not allow it because it is defeating the primary role of government, which is to ensure that our roads are passable, that motorists can afford to move around the city or move around the state without any hindrance. So for me to add a voice, I want to say that we are going out. We have run our advert for a while now. The press release was out and we gave 2 weeks grace period for people to come to the Ministry of Urban Planning and the Ministry of Transport. A few of them came, and I want to tell the press now and the public in general that what they have brandished is purely approvals which they got from various local governments. That does not replace what the Ministry of Urban Planning ought to give to them if you want to have a permanent structure there. But even at that, before my ministry or the Ministry of Transport will come up to say, okay, my colleague in the urban planning, I think here is fit enough to be a park, go ahead and give them a permit. There are things we want to put in place. Is there any way that such terminal will obstruct the traffic? Like when you pass through Akpababa now, for instance, it's an eyesore. It's an eyesore with the high rates that people are converting buildings to terminals. And they all have the tendency of blocking the flow of traffic. So this is what we are trying to prevent, and it's better that we do it now than for us to spend so much money in building new roads. At the end of the day, the traffic situation is still tough. If you drive up now to the junction of Ted at Sapamba Road here, you can see the menace that is happening there, all because people are just converting the roadside to be motor parks. Henceforth, we will not entertain any permission or whatever in the Ministry of Transport without approval from the Ministry of Urban Planning, so that they can help us plan the city well. Thank you very much.
So, well, thank you. Is there anything to recap because of anything? Anyway, we can do that in the private time, so I don't keep everybody here. Are there any questions? We would like to entertain any questions, any clarification you seek.
Speak now or
never. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Have the owners have they been notified?
We just said we will start going out.
First of all, let me just take your question very quickly.
And another question, how much is the permit you are talking about that people
Good. Okay. Can we work out the modalities? Is that we take all the questions and respond all at once? I think that will be faster for everybody. So the first one is notification cost. The second is cost of permits. Yes, any other questions?
Yes, there's one here.
Yes.
This one. Gabriel from the Vanguard.
Yes, sir.
What is the stipulated penalty for offenders?
Stipulated penalties for offenders. Okay, yes, next question.
In terms of approval of terminals, where does the local government come in? That's one.
Approval terminals. People's houses, things like MLSA when it was Ministry of Lands, now MEGD, now that is Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. It will interest to note that we also regularly serve contravention notices, written notices, to some of these illegal structures. So people are notified when they are contravening. The interesting thing to note is that our people then pretend not to be notified after begging you for extension, and then when you now come to effect service, they say, oh, we're not notified. But really, we notify. The process for action first is notify that you are contravening or notify that we are going to demolish. So we do notify. Now, what is the cost of this permit? A permit, it's not a fixed cost. It depends on the size of your development. It is a function of the area you are occupying. But believe me, it is most affordable. We are talking, some permits go as low as 15,000, 20,000. For somebody who is building a house of millions, this is a negligible cost. In any case, these are taxes that are meant to be used for the people for the government to improve on infrastructure. We spend billions on the roads, and then you are now selling tomatoes of 10,000, 1,000 naira. you are occupying a whole lane that costs billions to build. And again, this is even a problem for those who are legitimate owners of shops. Because if you go, for instance, you go to Ekusa, there are people who are legitimate owners of shops who pay their taxes, who occupy shops, but illegal encroachers on the road will come and crowd them out of their own businesses. And finally, do we want to live in a good environment or not? This is the question we need to ask ourselves. Do we want to live in an environment where you are supposed to be working on the walkway, but you are dodging between tomato seller, orange seller, dodging tuke loading and offloading? This is not the correct way for us to live. So our goal is to clean up the environment for the benefit of everybody. All taxpayers must benefit. It is not only the traders on the street that pay tax. Even you that you are sitting here, don't you pay tax? Don't you have the right to good roads? Don't you have the right to a clean environment? Then stipulated penalty for offenders. The maximum penalty applicable to an illegal structure is demolition. And there are two ways of the demolition. Either you remove it yourself, or the ministry or government will remove it on your behalf and recover the cost from you. So you can see that the law itself, and this law is as old as Nigeria. It's not a new law. The last edition of the law is actually in 1982. It's an old law, but now we are enforcing it because we want a better environment. Government has invested billions of taxpayers' money on improving the environment. We cannot allow a few people to destroy this environment for the rest of us. Approval of terminals and the role of local government in parks. I am going to allow my colleague to answer that, but please note this. Only the state government, by Nigerian law, is permitted to grant planning approval for building development for any purpose, including federal government buildings. I didn't write the law. And I will invite our reporters here to research this law and read it for themselves. Only the state government can grant planning approvals. And the state government has given that power to the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, the Department of Fiscal Planning and Development Control. Then you talked about banks and customer parking, that they are taxpayers, and so we should allow them to park on the road. For me, I don't think this is correct. I am a taxpayer myself. I don't park on the road. If a bank or any corporate organization is going to engage in business, we welcome this. We want you to come to Edo State. We want to make Edo State conducive for business. But we want to do it in such a way that everybody enjoys doing business in Edo State. Therefore, you cannot use your own business to disturb another man's business. Because by the time you block the road, you are stopping other people from doing their own business seamlessly. Which is why we say you must conduct your business within your premises. If you need space for parking for your customers, it is your responsibility to provide it, not government's responsibility. I think we need to be very clear on this. Government did not expand those roads so that people would turn them to parking lots. The roads were expanded to ease traffic congestion so that the cost of doing business in Edo State, Benin City in particular, is reduced. And this is meant to attract more investors to our state. No investor is coming here if the place is chaotic. That is why government is insisting that we must be orderly. So my advice to the banks and to other corporate organizations who want to provide parking for their customers, please do so, but it cannot be on our roads. Again, somebody spoke about parking. I think I've already addressed this. Even in areas, in some high density areas where government would decide through the Ministry of Transport to allow parking, it is left for the Ministry of Transport to regulate how that parking is done. And I'm sure my colleague here will speak on how that parking will be organized so that everybody enjoys the road. Now, how do existing owners regularize their building permit for those who don't have? Simple. Just come here with your plans. And we will sit down with you and walk you through the process of getting your building permit. I believe I have very cautious staff who are and very helpful people who are willing to help and ensure that you get, because that is why we are here, to serve. We are not here to lord it over anybody, we are here to serve. Unfortunately, for those who default, we are forced to show our rough side. But for the generality of the populace, we are here to serve, and many are becoming and utilizing our services without complaint. So we invite others to come forward if you feel that you are not getting the kind of service you should get, please come to the commissioner's office and drop your complaint, or even ask to see the commissioner. I will be glad to discuss your issues with you. Now, what does the law say on penalties? I think I've also already addressed this, that the law allows up to demolition and recovery. In fact, I believe the term is instructing the owner to restore the property to its initial state. If, for instance, you got approval for a 3-bedroom residential bungalow, which you have now turned to a 5-story hotel, the law allows us to ask you to please, without the requisite permit, restore it to the 3-bedroom bungalow. It's either you do it yourself or we'll do it for you at your own cost. But this is what the law says. To avoid this is what we are saying, that if you intend to do this, again, government recognizes that demography is changing and business is coming on. So to reverse this, what you need to do is approach the ministry for the necessary development permits, and we will check to see that your development fits into the area that you want to put in. If your development fits into the area, for instance, you want to build hotels along Apapava or a bank or something, we will just go ahead and give you the necessary approvals to do this. Or if you say you want to do a hotel right next door to for instance, let me say you want to put a church right next to, say, government house, or you want to put a 5-story hotel right next to government house, and meanwhile the planning zoning for that area is residential only, we will advise you that sorry, the law does not allow you to do this. Or you want to put a petrol station next to a weather, common sense tells us that that will lead to disaster somewhere. That so this is why there is planning. Or you put a market at the junction, and at the end of the day, nobody can enter the market, nobody can come out. This is why we say we need to plan. We have planned. We now need people to obey the planning laws. Failing which, government is not powerless to enforce these laws. That is what we are saying. I'll leave my colleague to.
Yeah, you have said it all. The Honorable Commissioner for Airport.
Very sorry. Please. There is one other issue here. What about those who are building without building permits?
Risk.
Well, you stand the risk of having your premises demolished, because the law says that any structure that is not permitted is illegal, and illegal structures can be demolished. So the risk you stand for building without the necessary permit is that somebody can come and put X on it and will demolish it. The other risk you stand in building without permit is, for instance, I can give you a practical example. 5 Junction, a company wanted to put a filling station, a gas station at 5 Junction. But the people were smart enough to find out that we want to put a gas station here, is it possible? And I said, oh, sorry, you cannot put a gas station here because government is putting a roundabout there. What would have happened to that gas station if they had gone ahead to put it without permit? Will it not have been removed? It will have been an illegal structure for which you get no compensation. If your structure is illegal and it is removed for expansion of infrastructure, you get absolutely no compensation. And they will have wasted their investment. They have since relocated their gas station somewhere else, and their gas station has since opened for business. So this is why it is necessary to follow the law, because there are short-term, medium-term, and long-term plans in government quarters for the city. And we have all this information at our disposal. You may not have it. So when you approach us before you do your development, we are able to avail you of some of these plans. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much. If you will excuse me, my colleague commissioner will continue from here. Thank you.
Take your pen. Take. I will just round up by adding voice to what the Honorable Commissioner for Urban Planning has said. So somebody asked what is the role of the local government in the setting of bus terminal or bus terminals. I just said the ESCO in his wisdom didn't want a contention or a struggling of a role with the local government. So we decided to carve out a name to say motor terminals. And let me explain this. The local government do not have any role or whatsoever to play in the siting of private bus or motor terminals. I repeat, motor terminals are private driven terminals. That means when Mrs. AB, she approaches a bank to start a motor company, maybe a bus company or a fleet of cars, she is not expected to approach the local government to say, I saw a building in Wasota, I want to convert it to a bus terminal or a car terminal. The local government is not equipped with technical personnel. The local government are not aware of the urban master plan. The master plan of whether a Goy Kobaka Oredo is resident in the Ministry of Urban Planning. So no government, no local government can run, administer any part of the state independent of the Ministry of Urban Planning. So their role, as I will say here, it is near zero. But however, it is complementary after the setting up, after the Ministry of Urban Planning with the Ministry of Transport may have looked at the application, and we ensure that it does not offend the urban planning rules and regulations. The permit is granted. Local government takes over from there to ensure that there is sanitation, and that's why they give out tickets. They are liberty to go in there and ensure that it's clean. Their health officers can go in there. Then two, Madam asked, and somebody else asked, to say local government are expected to build parks. I agree with you totally. I agree with you totally. And it's very clear too in the schedule, the role of local government. They are expected to build motor parks. And the standard of the motor parks there is contained therein as well. There must be convenience. That means there must be toilets, an eatery, a rest house, everything is contained there. And not shanties. And in doing that, every local government that intend to build, and when they say they have control, that means they can build. Not to give authority to every Dick and Harry to site motor parks. So we always say, look, local government are in charge of motor parks. Yes. Local government can write the Ministry of Urban Planning to say they want to put a central motor park in Uselu. They apply to the Ministry of Land. Ministry of Land will say, okay, we have this land here. In conjunction with the Ministry of Urban Planning, they look at the master plan. If that central park is appropriate there, they will approve, and we have to look at it to say, okay, they won't disturb the free flow of traffic. So, Madam, from local government, I hope that is clear. So that you take a message. This is very clear. You can read through the constitution. You know, there was a special committee that was set up by the government. 7 commissioners. I was one of them. The Honorable Commissioner for Urban Planning was there. Environment, your commissioner was there. We dealt one-on-one with local government council. The 18 of them were present, and we looked through the books. We use our red pen. The chairman of board and entire revenue service, he was there on revenue to generate, and we saw that where they start and stop. But no local government can set up a park without coming here, without coming to the ministry here to come and take a permit. Then the third one, you said the inner lane. You were the one that asked. No, somebody asked the inner lane. That before now we were told. We are getting it wrong here. Inner lane is for parking in some cases. We are published before in the Nigerian Observer, we will publish again. We have some roads that are one-side parking, others are two-side parking on the road. Where you have one-side parking, we are saying we have started what we call on-street parking on Akpakpava, Mission Road, Saple Road, Airport Road, about 5 streets or thereabout, and there's Sakuma Road. And you have the young women asking you to park where, sir, for a token of 15 naira an hour. That does not mean that because I like money, because the state government likes IGRO, 4 of you come and say you want to convert the stretch of Sakuma Road to a motor park or bus terminal. So I'm a little bit worried that you are missing both up. Nothing has changed here. We have created where you have 6 lanes, the inner lane, the outer lane becomes, car parks. But that doesn't mean you have to set up your motor park there. Is that clear, sir? Then the fourth one was buses. Sorry?
Sanitizing urban market.
I'm coming. That's the 5th one. The 4th one was buses picking the passengers at Urban Market Road. You asked that question. this is a product of illegal parks. 3 times I have led, sorry for my word, I'm doing raids on that park. They show us receipt that they are paying to already local government council. They were given there by the council. So when you ask us, well, what are we doing? When we go out, they confront us that they just paid for last month. And they show us already officials are collecting tickets from them. So when you collect money from them to trade on the road, ordinarily they have the permit of the council. So that is not our fault as the Ministry of Transport. It's purely the approval given to them by the various local government council. And that's why we are partnering with this ministry to ensure that only the approval emanate from here, so that we don't have this issue of. So we are doing everything. Each time we go there, I feel so bad. I will push them back. They will come back again. But you see the Oredo local government officials, they are all there with them. Even sometimes they will join them. What do we do? Let them work because they are collecting tickets from them. And the various unions, they are all there. And they all pay money to the councils, to the various councils. And banks, parking space. The Honorable Commissioner for Urban Planning has said it all. But let me add this one. There is a law that is in place that banks must obtain what we call the corporate parking permits from the Ministry of Environment. Again, most of them, they have always paid, 80% of them they pay to the local government where they operate. And once they pay to them, the council allow them to even park their cars and block the way. I have an instance yesterday where the ministry staff went to give them parking permit in the bank, and the mobile policemen attached to the bank started shooting in the air to scare the Ministry of Transport away. Why? They were brandishing receipts that were given to them. They pay 150,000 or so to a particular council for a whole year. So for 150,000, the bullion van can afford to drive one way. Nobody talks. But I think that is invitation to anarchy. If we must look for money, we must look for money in such a decent manner. Thank you very much.
I just sorry.